Welcome back, everybody, to the Word Around the Ring podcast. My name is Big Rob, and I'll let my tag team partner reintroduce himself.
I'm King Jess, and we're the only podcast to officially announce our entrance into the 2025 Royal Rumble. I don't know about you, Rob, but this is the perfect year for us to enter as it gives us the highest chance of avoiding a tsunami from Bronson. It is that time of the year again, though. Entrants are declaring they're going to win and headline Mania. So, with the Rumble just around the corner, what's been the word around the ring, Rob?
I love the fact that you bring up the Royal Rumble because we are only 2 weekends away, but of course, we also have Saturday night's main event next Saturday. Very interesting. We get two almost what would be a semi pay per view Saturday night's main event and the real pay per view the following Saturday. But all in all, we are excited. A lot of news to cover. In regards to the Royal Rumble itself, I do want to start with a very important entrant, a man who hasn't made the Royal Rumble or hasn't had to be in the Royal Rumble for quite some time because he was defending the championship for 1,300 and some days, Mr. Roman Reigns. But of course, Roman Reigns wasn't the one to make the announcement. Paul Heyman, the wise man, was the one who let the world know, and most importantly, let Cody Rhodes know that Roman Reigns will be declaring or has already declared um, that he will be entering this year's Royal Rumble because he is, in fact, targeting now that he has finished his job, now that he has reclaimed the Iron Throne and the Ulafala sits around his neck. His eyes are back on the gold. Cody Rhodes WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and Paul Heyman made that very clear on this last week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown to start the show. Paul did open up the show and let everyone know that it is now time. Not only everyone, he actually invited Cody up to the ring to talk to him because he wanted it to be clear that Roman is now on a mission and he's going to be regaining that championship back after he wins the Royal Rumble. With that being said, before we even move into the rest of this little segment, I want to know your thoughts on what or how you feel about a potential trilogy between Cody and Roman at WrestleMania 41. Is that something that you would want to see? Is that something at all that we should get at 41, or would you book it for a 42 or a 43 or maybe even a 44? Do you think they're moving in a little too quickly if that's the direction that they're going?
Yeah, no, let's start off from the beginning. Paulie starting off the show is always a highlight. He's, the GOAT in this business. So anytime he comes out, that crowd gets riled up. So it's always good to see him. Like you said, he came out and he pretty much made it clear for Cody Rhodes what the roadmap is for the OTC going forward. Now, do I see the OTC winning the Rumble? I don't know, man. I don't know if that's the way we're gonna get the trilogy, because I do think we do get the trilogy at some point. But I just don't know if Roman winning the Rumble is the way that we go about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There have been some speculation as well as to some surprise entrants. Some rumors speculating online. One that my good friend Mr. William Riley did bring to my attention. That would be really interesting with The Rock, the board member, the final boss, making an entrance, but not between 1 to 30, but a surprise entrance at 31 because he is a board member. He can make these changes. Now, if we're watching the Royal Rumble in 2 weeks and all the 30 entrants have entered the ring, we have 10 more men left in there fighting, battling it out. And then all of a sudden, you hear the Rock's electricity hit the ground and the final boss walks out as entrant number 31. Would that be something you want to see? How would you feel about him using his power as a board member to create an extra slot in this year's Royal Rumble?
This is actually something you boys brought to the table a couple months ago, if I remember correctly. And I'm going to stick to the statement that I said back then. If this is a one and done, I'm perfectly fine with it. I feel like it's in a way kind of a cool way to abuse his power. I just don't want him to continuously doing this going forward. So if this is going to be a one-off, if we're going to declare him entrant number 31 to stir up some shit, I'm completely fine with that. But let's keep it at a one and done.
Fair enough. I can agree with that. I would absolutely love it, and I think it would be fantastic for his heel character and the final boss persona as well. But moving on to the rest of this segment here between Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman, they continue to have a quick discussion. Paul Heyman was actually interested in hearing what Cody had to say after he announced that Roman Reigns would be coming for his championship. Cody seemed confident all throughout Paul's little speech, and he doesn't seem phased at all about the tribal chief making his claim that he will be regaining the gold around his waist. Paul Heyman actually gave the mic to Cody by saying, "Well, I know what you want to talk about." But before Cody could even get a word off, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Owens appeared in the crowd and cut off Cody and said, "You know what I want to talk about? The fact that this is all your fault. The fact that you should have left the bloodline to destroy and demolish Roman Reigns. And now look at you, because you wanted to help him fight his evil cousins. He's now going to be coming back for the championship that you beat him for. And if you let that happen, the WWE is going to go back to shit." And before Kevin Owens could finish his thought, Cody had enough. He ran up to fight Kevin Owens in the crowd, and the camera panned to them just brawling up in the arena. I completely agree with Kevin Owens. He was also sporting a Kevin is right shirt. I also did notice that he didn't have the winged eagle belt on him this Friday night SmackDown, which was interesting. I hope we see it soon. I do love him holding that belt. I think it looks great. But with Kevin Owens coming out here interrupting Cody Rhodes, it gave Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu an opening to go in and intimidate Mr. Paul Heyman. They surrounded the ring, and I believe they actually made their way into the ring, getting face to face with Paul Heyman. But there was another Samoan that came to the rescue. It was not Jey Uso, it was not Roman Reigns, but it was one of the crowd's other favorites in Jimmy Uso. Jimmy decided to buy Paul Heyman some time. They started to go back and forth. Cody then came up to save the day as well, helped out Jimmy Uso there. And then we had Jimmy, Cody, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga being held back by security. Cody, though, always with a mic in his hand, told Nick Aldis that he's done with the bloodline, he's done playing games, and that he wants a tag match between him and Jimmy versus Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga that same night. Nick Aldis then made the announcement that that would be that night's main event, and that is what we got later on in the night. How did you feel about Kevin Owens interrupting Cody here? Do you think he's right with all that he had to say? And how much are you looking forward to the ladder match that will be taking place between Cody and Kevin?
It's a lot to unpack there. I think it's kind of funny, and we'll get to this later on down in the night, but I think it's kind of funny that both Drew and KO are kind of like in this doomer mentality, preaching to everybody like, "Hey, you guys are focusing on the wrong thing. Like Roman's gaining power and we're doing nothing about it. Do you remember how it was with him in power? Do you want to go back to this?" And like, no one is focusing on that. And I just think this is a really great way, especially this segment tonight, starting off with Polly, is a great way of keeping all three of these storylines that kind of have to do with the bloodline alive and kind of intermingling with each other, because right now we have Cody and KO. Cody, KO's hurt at Cody for joining the bloodline, to a certain extent and helping them out. But you also have Drew on the other side that doesn't want, he has his own thing with CM Punk and Seth Rollins, but he doesn't want Roman to regain power again. And then, Roman's doing his own thing where he's like, "I want my power." So these storylines all intermingle, and I appreciate that they're doing these sort of matches here and there, so that we don't let any dead air kind of fill in those spots, because there is a lot going on. And sometimes these matches or these little segments in the back kind of get lost in the shuffle, but they've been pretty good at making it prominent. So KO, interrupting right now in Cody, and then, them having that match set for Saturday night's main event. I'm all for it. I mean, this we said that this feud wasn't over the last time that KO and Cody got in the ring together, and it seems like we're going full force into kind of Rumble slash Mania season with them too. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Definitely. And you bring up a great point with Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, and everyone really like honing in on the fact that this is all Roman Reigns' fault. And I remember like heading into WrestleMania 39, Roman and Paul had an interview, I think, or a backstage segment where they were discussing the fact that they want Roman to be the nucleus, the son of the WWE, where everything really surrounds him, the tribal chief, and all the stories are somehow, some way connected to Roman, and that's clearly what we're seeing here with the Seth Rollins of the world, with the CM Punks of the world, with Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. Like everywhere they turn, there's a connection to Roman or Paul Heyman. With CM Punk, it's now the favor that Paul owes him. How is that going to play out in the future? With Drew, he's hell bent on getting the revenge that he feels like he deserves with all the wrong that the bloodline has caused him during his time in the WWE for the last 2 years. And with Seth Rollins, of course, we could take it back to the Shield days where he was the ultimate one that caused this avalanche to happen with Roman Reigns as well. And Kevin Owens, he is pissed about all the times Roman and the bloodline screwed him. And so they're right. Cody is a babyface. He's a good guy. He wants to help everyone. And I think it's going to come back to bite him in the ass sooner or later. I would be interested to see who's going to dethrone him whenever that does happen. Are they going to go back to giving the belt to Cody, or is it going to, sorry, to Roman, or is it going to go somewhere else? But I think they're doing a great job of really putting Roman in the middle of every story here. And it just makes a ton of sense. They've done a phenomenal job with doing so. But in regards to Kevin Owens and the Cody match, I am definitely excited to see this. They've been having these backstage brawls around the arena. They've just been going back and forth, and you could really start to see the hatred that they have against each other. And it's always great when two former friends get in the ring and or just fight, because those friends have passion. There's love lost between them clearly, and we're starting to see that here. And then, of course, later on in the night, we get the tag match, which I'm going to be excited to talk about a little bit in a little bit. But moving on to the next segment that I wanted to discuss was LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship. Heading into this match, I didn't think LA Knight was going to win it, of course. I thought that would be too premature for Shinsuke's title reign. We got actually a really fun match that I enjoyed between these two. Unfortunately, the match did end in a disqualification because Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga got their revenge for what LA Knight did to them backstage the previous week when he forcibly kicked them out of the locker room, hilariously. Um, but with that being said, LA losing this match again, him not being able to regain his US championship, where do you think he goes from here? What's next for LA Knight? Do you think he continues to focus on facing Shinsuke? Do you think we're going to get that match at a Saturday night main event? Or does he turn his attention somewhere else, such as to facing Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga in singles matches?
Yeah, you said it best. This match was great. These two always go out there and give 110%. So I wasn't really wasn't worried about the match quality. What I was worried about was exactly what happened. The Samoans got involved and this ended in DQ, and that really sucks because this match was a banger. Shinsuke is probably one of my all-time favorites that came from New Japan, went through NXT, and made his way onto the main roster. And LA Knight, he dominated the Indies for a while and finally found his path in WWE. So seeing these two go at it for the belt is always exciting. But when you end it in a DQ like this, it kind of just takes that mystique away from what a solid match it could have been. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed it a little bit more in these last past episodes. There's a lot of DQ interferences, and there's a lot of false finishes. Early kickouts, no selling, and I really hope that kind of tones down because I understand that with a show like your inaugural episode of Raw on Netflix, you kind of want that big pop feel. You want that crowd of pop, but you don't need that every week. So
Mhm.
these multiple false finishes that you're having in a match really just need to stop. Um, at the end of the day, though, Knight got involved in a situation he shouldn't have, and he paid the price. It sucks to say, but that's exactly what fucking happened. So, do I want LA Knight chasing the Samoans? No, absolutely fucking not. They have nothing for you. All they did was repay you for some stupid shit you decided to handle backstage. So what I want from LA Knight is for him to do everything in his power to go back there and ask for the rematch. I want this match to actually go down and give me a concisive winner. I don't want this to end in a DQ. I don't want other people getting involved. None of these guys really have, I guess, groups that they pertain to, so this shouldn't be happening. Um, the commentary table did say this throughout the night. They said LA Knight, there's something about LA Knight that just doesn't seem right without him wearing gold. And I completely agree with that. I think we prematurely took the gold off of him. And if this storyline goes the way I think it's going to go, I do think this is going to be huge for LA Knight. But I need them to pull the trigger before the momentum that he has fades away because he is hot right now. But as we know in this industry, that does not last forever.
So you want him to win his US championship back relatively soon,
Oh, my
or
bad.
would you
So,
have him n
so yeah,
no,
on the
or
question,
would you have him go for the World Heavyweight Championship or a possibly a WWE Championship run, or do you think you want him to stick to that US belt?
I think I want him to stick to US belt. I don't think there's a need for him to move up to a bigger belt at the moment. So I do feel like there's a feud that he needs to finish with Shinsuke, and eventually that leads into him, regaining his belt. But we got a little bit of a story to tell before we can get to that point.
That's fair enough. I did really like this match though. I did think he had a chance towards the end because if I'm not mistaken, Nakamura went for his King Shaza, but Knight moved out of the way, and he ended up hitting the Nakamura ended up hitting the turnbuckle, and that's when he hit the BFT on him.
Hmm.
But then that's when he was interrupted by Tamatanga and Jacob Fatu. But all in all, I did think he had a chance. I am curious to see. I think if I don't know if they made the announcement, but I've seen online already that LA Knight is going to be entering the Rumble, another contestant here, which would be fun, which will be interesting. He adds a great personality to the match. Definitely somebody that has a fighting chance to win it. I wouldn't bet money on it, but there's give him 2-3%. Um, so excited to see how he performs in the Rumble. It's always fun. The Rumble's always fun because we remember the winners, but we also remember the individuals who last like 60 minutes, 50 minutes, whoever is in there fighting for a long time. And LA Knight could potentially be one of those individuals this year. We're going to have to wait and see. I would love to see him wearing gold again. Do I want him to win the United States Championship back immediately? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Shinsuke moves his attention to other mid carders, such as Carmelo Hayes, or give Andrade another match. I did think Andrade and Shinsuke had a phenomenal match a few weeks ago as well. Um, but all in all, we're gonna have to wait and see. I'm sure that the United States Championship will be defended at a Saturday night's main event or the Royal Rumble with the two pay-per-views coming up back-to-back weekends. But we're gonna have to wait and see. But speaking of United States Championships, I know how much you love your inaugural women's United States champion, Miss Chelsea Green. She had a match this week as well against Michin, her first title defense. And this was, of course, a fun match to watch. Chelsea Green is always fun. And Michin has been on fire for the last couple of months as well. She's showed up, and showed out. I remember the dumpster match that she had with Chelsea Green as well. So these two have gone back and forth a little bit. Michin really got the majority of the offense here, but Chelsea Green always comes accompanied by her best friend, Miss Piper Niven. With that, Piper always serves as a phenomenal and wonderful distraction to help Chelsea Green win. I do believe Chelsea Green won with a roll up here in heel fashion, as she always does, and she retains her championship. I don't want to see Chelsea lose this belt anytime soon. Um, and I'm glad her first title defense went so well against Me Chin. What were your thoughts on this match? And if you're booking Chelsea Green, who is her next opponent here for the United States belt?
This match was great. Like you said, Michin has really proven to us that she can be that hard worker that they need whenever they need her. So coming into this match, I don't know if I necessarily thought that Michin was going to win it, but I thought we were going to get a phenomenal match either way. Again, the interruptions inside of matches, I feel like they kind of got to stop. I kind of saw it coming with Piper Niven coming out. I will say that I appreciate the fact that she has turned full gimmick to match Chelsea, and now she's like a Secret Service agent. I think that shit's fucking hilarious. But at the end of the day, I don't really want to see Chelsea be the champion that's always winning by cheating, you know? When it comes to the bigger matches, I do want her to just straight out win. I want her to show the world what
Mhm.
we know, and that's that she's a solid fucking worker, you know? I think that her being this comedic wrestler in WWE really outshadows her in-ring work, and I feel like that's something that she really needs to display during the bigger matches. Who do
I
I see
agree.
her? Who do I see her as her first rivalry with the belt post Meet Chin? There's a lot of people that I would put in that line. Someone that I favor a lot, and I think that we'll get into it later in the night. I think that she probably should have been the inaugural IC champ. That's Io Sky, man. I feel like Io's been killing it, and she's someone that can carry that belt well after whatever Chelsea decides to do with that belt. Chelsea will bring some notoriety to that belt, but not in the same way that an Io Sky will, and that's okay because that's why we have different title reigns. So I'm excited to see who she actually does go for after Michin, but it'll also be interesting if someone goes after her.
Definitely. Io Sky is definitely someone we should keep an eye on. She's still on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. So she might be going for the Intercontinental belt. But with Io Sky, I want her to focus on Rhea Ripley. I think her and Rhea Ripley would have a phenomenal match together at some point in the near future. She is a main title talent. Not to say anything against Chelsea Green in the mid card title here, but I would love to see Io Sky compete for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship or the Tiffany Stratton Championship as well. But great call on that front. In terms of someone who I would love to see face Chelsea Green, we have recently seen Miss Roxanne Perez down in NXT lose her NXT championship to Julia. And so, with that being said, a lot of speculation of Miss Roxanne coming up to the main roster. I'd love to see Roxanne come out and potentially face Chelsea Green for the United States belt. I think she'd be a fantastic talent and worker to go up against her. What are your thoughts on a potential Roxanne bump up to the main roster and maybe challenging Chelsea Green for her belt?
We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks, ever since we kind of figured that Roxanne would be losing her belt soon, especially with the talent that they've signed down in NXT. So I wouldn't be mad, especially if we go in a route like a Paige AJ Lee, where she just comes out and beats her out front to kind of establish that dominance. I feel like that'd be a great way to push Roxanne up to the main roster. Now we don't have to go that way, of course. We can just have her come up and have a solid match, the same way Carmelo did when he got called up. But it'll be interesting to see where Roxanne lands. I feel like she'd be a really good fit down on SmackDown, but honestly, the talent's great on either brand, so I wouldn't mind wherever she goes.
Yeah, I'm excited just to see her move up to the main roster. I'm curious to see how her mic skills are going to work up there because I think that is something that Roxanne needs to work on a little bit, at least from what I remember and what I see of her. But
Hmm.
all in all, phenomenal worker, and I am excited to see what she has in store. But speaking of women champions, I do want to talk about Miss Tiffany Stratton, as this was her first appearance as our official WWE Women's Champion. And I must say, the gold looks phenomenal on Tiffany, and I think she knows it as well. With that being said, we did celebrate and hear from her. And what I thought was interesting was the fact that she came out and she was talking her shit. She let everyone know. She said, "Hey, it's Tiffy time. I know that you guys thought, that I was delusional, that I may have been stupid, but that was me playing the dumb blonde. I was making Nia Jax look like a fool because I wanted to take advantage of the situation, and I knew that when she let her guard down, that I would be there to win her championship. And she told the fans to put some respect on her name and to tell them what time it is. But of course, Miss Big J-Lo was gonna have none of that. She comes out Nia Jax does. She comes out and she says, "You ungrateful little shit," on live television. That was not muted. I think it was muted later on in the night for people watching after it was recorded live. But she did say, "You ungrateful little shit." And Nia Jax continued to go on a little rant saying how she could murder Tiffany for what she's done. Um, and Stratton just wasn't having it. Of course, Nia makes her way to the ring, but then they're all interrupted by Bailey. And here come Naomi and Bianca Belair interrupting as well. And here comes Nick Aldis. They make an announcement that, you know what, ladies, we're gonna have a fatal four-way between Nia Jax, Bailey, Bianca, and Naomi. And the winner of that match is gonna go on and face Tiffany Stratton. But before we talk a little bit about that match, I want to hear your thoughts on what Tiffany had to say to Nia Jax. Do you really believe that this whole time Tiffany was manipulating Nia and manipulating us as fans while she was holding that briefcase?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think Tiffany did the right thing and cashed in on Naya when the moment was right. But let's not get it twisted. She was not outplaying her. I feel like she got in her feelings, and right now she's kind of just trying to be the tough one. But at the end of the day, due to the window, it looks like the storyline is fucking closed. So we might not ever get the closure to that we want. Seeing as, and we'll talk about it later, Naya has used the window to move over. But yeah, she was talking big, and I was like, "Girl, you gotta chill because you were not outplaying Naya. She was really outplaying you."
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that because I feel like there was many moments or should have beens when Tiffany could have cashed in her briefcase, but she didn't. She held back because she recognized that, it wasn't. I just don't think she had the confidence in her that in herself to beat Nia at the time. But she finally got that confidence. The previous weekend did it. I'm just glad that her Money in the Bank reign is over because it was just a long one. It was definitely a long one. We talked about it last week. But I'm just glad that it's over and now she's our champion. And I'm excited to see who she faces at WrestleMania. I do, before I move into the Fatal Four Way match, I do want to hear your thoughts on this. There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation that the Queen, Miss Charlotte Flair, will be making her imminent return to the ring very, very soon. I think the perfect place to bring her back, of course, is none other than the Royal Rumble, where there will be a ton of surprises. Some returns, of course, are always expected to happen. And I think that'd be a great place for her to return, as we've missed her on our television. I can't remember the last time I seen her. It's been over a year, if I'm not mistaken. So very excited to hear that Charlotte is in line to return very soon. But there's a lot of rumors that the WWE and the team backstage have already begun discussing a potential Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton match. And the last time I saw Charlotte at WrestleMania, she was wrestling none other than Rhea Ripley. And look at the rocket that was put on Rhea following that match. Do you think Tiffany's going to get that same treatment if her and Charlotte go at it? Or would you predict Charlotte's going to be the one to make this a quick throne, a quick reign for Tiffany Stratton? As we know, the Queen always gets first dibs, and whenever she comes back for that belt.
Nah, I think that if Charlotte does come back and she does end up challenging Tiffany Stratton, I think we're gonna get a solid series of matches from these two. I don't think this is a instant stop to the reign. I feel like just like everybody else, just because you were big before and you come back from an injury, I don't think that you deserve to be put in front of the line, you know? And you said it. They love their Charlotte. They're willing to do that for her, but I don't think that in the place that we are now in the WWE that would be okay. I feel like having her cut so many people would be disrespectful to the talent on the back. Am I excited for Charlotte Flair? A fucking course. I love Charlotte Flair, and I've been waiting for her return, like I said, since the last time she gave us an update. But now we're approaching the Rumble, and the rumors are starting to seem a little bit more true. So, does she go on to win the Rumble? I don't know. But if she does, I would kind of bet my money that she will challenge Tiffy.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna get that match. That's a match that we've been waiting for. There's been a lot of speculation of since even the first time Tiffany made it up to the main roster. I know people wanted it, and I think we're gonna end up getting that at 41, which I'll be excited for. I'm gonna be on the opposition here. I think if Charlotte returns, and there's rumblings that she's coming back with a new gimmick, the Dark Queen, a Cersei like character for those of you who are fans of Game of Thrones, which I'm excited to see, because Charlotte plays a phenomenal heel. And she's one of the best women on the mic, I must say. She's one of the best on the mic, and I just can't wait to see her back on television, especially since it's been such a long time. I think the fans are going to be excited. So if she returns at the Royal Rumble, I'm going to be rooting for her, but we're going to have to wait and see. But moving on to the Fatal Four Way, this was a fun match between the four of these women. Of course, Bailey, Naomi, Bianca really turned their attention to Nia Jax as she is the sizable opponent here. It was a pretty long match. I think it went about 16 to 17 minutes. And ultimately, Bailey ended up winning this match. Towards the end, she was able to hit the rose plant on Naomi for the win. And she's going to go on to face Tiffany Stratton this upcoming Friday on SmackDown for the belt. How did you feel about Bailey winning? Do you think that was the right decision? We know that the other three women in this match were Naomi and Bianca, who are currently our tag champs because Jade Cargill is still hurt, and of course the former champion Nia Jax.
Yeah, no, this match did go a little long. I would say it dragged a little bit, and to be honest, for what? I don't want to sound disrespectful. I like Bailey, but it's time to give others a chance to shine. Time and time again, we go back to her and grant her these belt opportunities when we can be exploring other talent in that locker room. That being said, every name in this match was big, so there's not really an underdog to root for. We even had the tag champs in there, like you mentioned, and to me, that's always kind of like a dead giveaway that they're not really gonna win. Those are just wasted spots that, honestly, truly, you could have gave to someone else, and gave us that kind of doubt of like, hey, like maybe the big people won't win. Maybe this new person that they're backing, maybe they'll win, you know? But that didn't happen. We just gave it back to Bailey. And that worries me because how many times are we going to give Bailey an opportunity just for her to not be able to control that belt for too long? I feel like all her title reigns have kind of been like okay, you know, they've never been anything that we talk about months after. So how many times are we going to do this before we stop giving her chances, you know?
For sure, I feel that sentiment. I think with individuals like Bailey, love her. She's a fantastic worker. I think it's just some people are just meant to chase the title and it's about winning it, and then once they win it, it's just hard for them to keep that momentum. I think Bailey falls under that category, because whenever she's chasing it meaningfully, like when she was going up against Damage Control, like that was a fun ride to be on with her. The match that her and Io Sky put on at WrestleMania 40 was fucking fantastic. And so I think there's always those individuals who are just way more fun to watch when they're chasing the belt than actually winning the belt. I think Bailey is one of those people. But like you mentioned, it would have been nice to see some new faces, some new individuals in that ring for the number one contenders match. But I think they just want to build some more credibility or establish some credibility to Tiffany's title reign. I don't expect Tiffany to lose this upcoming Friday. I think, and I hope she wins cleanly. I hope she hits the prettiest moonsault ever. I hope she walks away on SmackDown looking strong this weekend as we head into Saturday night's main event and as we head into the Royal Rumble. But moving on to the last segment I want to talk about on this week's Friday Night SmackDown is the tag match between Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga versus Cody Rhodes and Jimmy Uso. Before the match started, Jacob cut a promo here that I absolutely love. And I'm just glad that Jacob is getting the mic now a little bit more. They're letting him do these walk-ups as he heads into his matches. And they give him that little short 30-second promo, and he knows what the fuck to do with it. He starts off the promo by saying, yo, Big Jim, the difference between my bloodline and your bloodline is that your bloodline left you on the front line to deadline. And Cody Rhodes, I suggest you wake your ass up. This ain't Elm Street, because your nightmare is here. And that shit just got me hyped, bro. because Jacob, man, when he cuts a fucking promo, bro, that shit, like you, like he's a intimidating individual. You know, like if I see that motherfucker on the street, I don't know, man. I might cross the street. That's an intimidating individual. And so when he's talking to you like that directly into the camera, you feel that intensity, and I just love it. I think like Jacob, bro, like fuck, man, that's a guy that I could see them putting the championship on very quickly, and he could take that rocket up to the moon. Just fantastic, and I can't wait. Like I'm happy that he's doing the whole bloodline thing right now. It's working for him, and he's doing well. And there's clearly some more story there. I'm excited to see where this plays out. I do want to make note that anytime we've seen Jacob Fatu for the last 3 months, ever since he made his debut on SmackDown, there's always been three words he always says. Those three words are I love you, Solo. I'm dumb because those are four fucking words. He says, I love you, Solo. And we didn't hear those four words this time. I think this was the first week in a very, 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 very long time since he's made his debut that he did not say, I love you, Solo. And Solo, of course, is nowhere to be found at this moment since he's lost his Ulafala last Monday. But we do know that Solo's going to be making his return to the ring this upcoming Friday. So before we move into the match, how did you feel about this Jacob promo? And where do you think he's going to go with Solo Sikoa? Do you think there's going to be a turn this Friday? Do you think there's going to be anything that we should be on the lookout for when it comes to Solo and his bloodline?
Jacob Fatu. What more do we need to say about him, bro? This man is a monster in the ring. If you aren't convinced that this man is a certified star, then you're still living under the mentality that Vince had, because this guy is just straight fucking money. This promo was crazy, and we know he has that dog in him. So I'm just glad that they're finally letting him show that out, and it'll just progressively get better. The more he's able to hone in what he can and what he can't say, he's just gonna thread that line very carefully, and he might even be kind of like a Samoa Joe on the mic, which is wild to say because if you know me, you know I think that Samoa Joe is king on the mic. So having someone like Jacob Fatu that can rival him in that sense, I think is a strong weapon that WWE can use. What happens between him and Solo? It is interesting. I didn't really notice that he didn't say "I love you" Solo this week, but I guess it does make sense because he lost to Ulafala. Is there any more loyalty to Solo, or was that loyalty just to the Ulafala? We'll find out this Friday. Do I think that this, I don't know, fucking Solo coming out and kind of explaining himself, do they turn on him there? Maybe. I feel like if you're gonna have him turn, you need, I guess, maybe the Rock to pop, wouldn't you? Just so that he can kind of give that order. Eventually Solo's gonna have to be kicked out and he's gonna have to find his way back to his OG family, I would assume, at least for like a bigger closing of that storyline. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this Friday and see if they really do kick him out or if they're gonna wait a bit before they do that.
Yeah, I mean, and just think about the buildup that we had to the new bloodline when they all started to come together. We first got Tama Tonga, and then we got Jacob Fatu, and then it took a little bit for Jacob and Tama and Solo to put Paul Heyman through that table at Madison Square Garden when Solo told him to acknowledge him. So there was a buildup there. I'll predict that there's going to be a bit of a buildup here if this is the direction that they go in turning Jacob Fatu against Solo. You mentioning The Rock, very interesting. I do think he definitely has to play a role in this. He definitely has to play a role in it all because he is the final boss. He is the original, not the original, but when we think about, you know, the bloodline, the Samoans, he's probably the first person to come to mind besides a Roman Reigns or even like a Yokozuna back in the day, whatever. But he is one of the more prominent characters, so I think he's definitely going to have to come back, and maybe we finally get that acknowledgement that he's been pulling the strings with the Jacob Fatu, with the Tama Tonga. You know, the whole shtick, Paul Heyman saying, how did you even get these guys to come to the US, to the WWE? These guys are banned. These guys have been in jail before, you know? And maybe the person that gave them that access, that granted them the opportunity to enter the WWE, who was The Rock. Maybe we find out that he was the one that pulled the strings that allowed Tama Tonga and Tongaloa to make it across from Japan to the WWE. Maybe we find out that The Rock paid someone off in jail to get Jacob Fatu out. You know, we never know where they go with this story, so we're gonna have to wait and see. But I would love to see The Rock somehow, some way intertwine into this. But I would be totally cool with Jacob also taking the mantle and letting them know I'm taking over now. This is going to be my bloodline. I would love that. And we do know that Haikuleo, another one of the cousins, has been signed to the WWE very quietly, very quietly. I believe there was speculation that he was going to be training up in NXT. We haven't seen him make his appearance there yet. Maybe they've been waiting and holding him for a moment like this, very similar to when Tama Tonga attacked Jimmy Uso when he made his debut. Maybe we get something very similar to that this Friday and we get a surprise with a new individual. We're going to have to wait and see. But all in all, what I am most excited for is the fact that we're going to get a Jacob Fatu solo run, hopefully in the future. I'm cool with still patiently waiting for it. There's going to be a build up here, but I'm just excited that we're starting to showcase his ability on the mic. We're starting to showcase his ability in the ring a little bit more. And clearly he's having a lot of confidence. He's been fucking killing it and he's going to continue to kill it. And like you said, they have a fucking superstar in Jacob Fatu and they recognize it. They absolutely recognize it. So I'm excited to see where he goes and how his career continues to project as he makes his way in his WWE journey. But going into the match a little bit, no need to harp on it too much. This was a fun little tag match between Jacob and Tama Tonga against Cody and Jimmy Uso. For the most part, the heels here did control the match. They of course focus on Jimmy Uso. He's the weaker of the bunch between him and Cody. They targeted him, really made Jacob Fatu look strong all throughout this match. He's gonna hit his flying moonsaults. He's gonna hit the whisper in the wind. He's gonna hit it all. Just a fucking phenomenal worker here. But the funniest part about this match here was, of course, Kevin Owens saw Cody Rhodes fighting. He has to get a piece of him. He's not gonna let Cody get away. He's trying to injure him before they make it to that ladder match because that's the only way that Kevin Owens is gonna win this fucking match. But he makes an appearance. Cody says, fuck whatever I got going on here. Fuck my tag partner. I don't care about Jimmy. I'm going to go fight Kevin Owens outside in the fucking arena, in between the fans. These two fucking guys just go back and forth while Jimmy is in there getting his ass whooped and getting murdered by Jacob Fatu. Jacob picks up the win while Cody and Kevin are out backstage having a fucking brawl again. But the best spot of this fucking brawl was the fact that they went through two tables, if I'm not mistaken, back in the arena. And that's how the show ended with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes' bodies laying there on the ground. They have been absolutely destroying their bodies over the course of the last couple weeks as this feud has continued. As I mentioned earlier, I am excited to see what they do in this ladder match because they've already spoiled us with so many crazy spots. So I just know they're going to pull off something insane at the Royal Rumble because it is one of the big four pay-per-views. What did you think about Cody Rhodes leaving his tag partner high and dry and Jimmy Uso there? Do you think he's going to have any repercussions or Jimmy's going to feel some type of way? And how did you feel about Jacob Fatu's showcase here during this match as well?
Well, let's start off with Jacob. I think I totally agree with you. Once the Bloodline business is done, I fully expect him to go on a monster solo run. We're only really scratching the surface with Jacob's true talent. And if you saw him on the Indies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of potential here. And he is someone that I could see taking over the mantle of the Bloodline if they decide to kick solo out. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to go on in regards to that aspect. With KO and Cody, I guess the KO is right marathon continues. He continuously proves to us that Cody's priorities are not in the right. He's prioritizing, this hate, this rage towards KO instead of helping Jimmy out in the ring. Will Jimmy see this as a betrayal? I don't think so. I think Jimmy understands what's going on. He'll see this more as a, hey man, you had to handle yours and I just got my ass whooped in the process. The blind might see this and second think Cody for any help from now on. But we'll just have to wait and see how this resolves next week. For now, we did go off the air with both of these guys just completely decimated on the floor. And I think this is a good setup for their ladder match at Saturday night's main event because it shows the brutality that both of these two players are willing to go for, um, to the extent of winning.
100%. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous is we still have three more Friday night SmackDowns before the Royal Rumble. So we're gonna have to see how they continue to build this feud up. Like I mentioned before, they've been killing themselves out there. With 3 weeks left, I'm a little nervous to see what they do, and hopefully they leave some room for interpretation for their match at the Royal Rumble. But I am excited for that ladder match. And moving back into the Royal Rumble picture, moving on to this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, the second episode of Raw on Netflix. And before we even get started, I absolutely loved this episode. Being in the arena for the first Netflix on Raw, fantastic experience. It was fun. But I must say, as a wrestling show, as just a an episode of Raw, this might be crazy to say, but I did enjoy this second episode more than the first. I thought this is what brought us back to what I was hoping for in that first Monday Night Raw episode. You know, the first Raw episode was great for different reasons. It was great because we got the pops, we got the stars. It was it was a showcase of what WWE has done for the last couple of years, and all the superstars came back. We got the Undertaker, hilariously, we got Hulk Hogan, we got John Cena's his first stop in his world tour, his final tour. So we got the big pops, the big stars out of the way. I think that's what they wanted to do. But this brought us back to what I think is going to be the case moving forward with episodes of Raw on Netflix, and I absolutely loved it. And the way it started was with none other than the man that ended last week's episode, CM Punk. He comes up to the middle of the ring, you know, excited to talk to the fans of San Jose. He lets everyone know that he loves them. Punk lets him know that he loves the city and that he wants to acknowledge the firefighters and the first responders in the state of California. As we all know, or if you don't know, California is going through some fires at this moment in Los Angeles. He gave a head nod to all those who are aiding and helping the situation, which I thought was great. You know, Punk's playing that little good guy character at this moment. But he went on to focus again on how he beat Seth Rollins, how he beat the Messiah at last week's episode. And he lets the people know that, you know, I'm the top guy right now. And I know I was hurt last year. I got hurt at the Rumble. It set me back, but that setback was my greatest comeback because ever since I've gone on to have this feud with Drew McIntyre, I've gone on to beat Seth Rollins. And you know what? The next goal that I have is going on to the Royal Rumble and throwing 29 other people over this rope. And as CM Punk is cutting his promo, of course, Seth Rollins is going to come out to interrupt him. Seth Rollins isn't done. We knew we were going to get a feud here. We knew this was going to be a one and done. Seth makes his way to the ring, wearing, of course, an all black suit with a red shirt. He's always going to be well dressed. And why not wear the Netflix, the Raw colors there? Rollins let Punk know you should not be surprised to see me because I am not going away until you kill me, until you absolutely put me in the ground. And Seth lets CM Punk know that, you know what, you might have beat me. You might have beat me last week, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure that you are not going to fucking main event WrestleMania. I'm going to make sure that at the Royal Rumble, you're not going to be the winner because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw you over that rope and I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to win the Royal Rumble and I'm going to go on to regaining my World Heavyweight Championship back. And so that was sort of Seth Rollins' entrance into the Royal Rumble as well. And as you mentioned before, we're getting the Drew McIntyres of the world, the Kevin Owens of the world to play roles in these bigger stories. Drew's music hits. Drew walks out and he joins the party. And he lets both Seth Rollins and CM Punk know that they're both idiots, and that he is going to have to be playing the locker room leader because they don't see the bigger picture, that which is Roman Reigns. Of course, Roman Reigns has now declared that he's going to be entering the Rumble, and these guys need to get it together, that they cannot let him win. And he's going to be the one that's going to throw everyone over the top rope. Seth Rollins and CM Punk are clearly frustrated with this man, and CM Punk does not let him forget that the last time Drew McIntyre and CM Punk were in the ring together, Drew was on his knees, bleeding and begging for his life, and you can see the frustration built in Drew McIntyre's face. And he even makes a threat. He said, "You know what, Punk? You want to go right now? You want to face me here in San Jose?" The crowd went nuts, and Drew just said, "Nah, not gonna happen. He's never gonna do that because he's gonna wait and he's gonna be throwing everybody over the rope at the Royal Rumble." So now we get the announcement. Now we have John Cena, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and LA Knight have already been announced to be contestants in this year's Royal Rumble. That's not even This is a crazy lineup. This is a crazy lineup. We haven't seen stars lined up like this for a Royal Rumble in a very, very, very long time. I'm extremely excited to see this year's pay-per-view. But before we get into it, I want to know your thoughts on the opening segment between CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. How did you feel about it? What was your favorite part? And with all these men entering the Royal Rumble, very, 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 very early predictions. Do you think any of these guys that I mentioned, John Cena, Roman, Seth, Punk, Drew, or Knight, will be the winners of this year's Rumble? And if so, who would you bet on?
All right, let's start. I feel bad for Phil. I feel bad for old man Phil. These two fanboys just can't seem to leave him alone. No, but in all seriousness, I understand Punk. He's done with these two and he's annoyed. But come on, Punk versus Seth fucking Rollins wasn't gonna end in one match, like you said. I am interested to see what happens though, because like you mentioned, Drew came out and it was strictly he was kind of just strictly interested in Seth. He wasn't really focusing on Punk. Anytime Punk kind of tried to come in, he kind of swerved him and went back to Seth. Um, these three will most likely be working a three feud leading into Mania, even ending at Mania in a triple threat. But we'll have to see how the storyline progresses because they're definitely starting to throw us a couple curveballs. Just last week, we were discussing Drew moving forward post Revenge Bloodline story and not understanding the decision of halting it right at Jay. But now he's here and ready to enter the Rumble and pick up an old beef with Seth. The next few episodes leading to the Rumble should give us somewhat of an idea of what's to come between these two. And who knows, maybe fucking old man Phil beats them both and finally gets them to leave him alone. As for who wins the Rumble, those are some big names. And if I kind of had to put some money on it, I would expect one of those names to win. But I would love it if WWE just shocked us with someone that we completely didn't see coming. But then again, they kind of reserve that for Money in the Bank. So, as an early prediction, just because of the names on that list, the only person I could see viable winning would probably be Drew McIntyre.
That's a great pick. That is a great pick. Would I agree with you? I don't know. Because we already saw Drew win the World Heavyweight Championship for 3 minutes. That was at WrestleMania 40. Then we saw him go ahead and win the Money in the Bank briefcase as well. This year, lost it the same night, or failed cash in the same night because of CM Punk. Um, he does feel like the individual that deserves it for everything he's done this year, for the feuds he's been through, and just the fucking year that Drew McIntyre has had, man. It's been fantastic. That man has been a workhorse. He finally, I don't want to say finally, but he found his groove as a heel, as the individual who's just calling it how he sees it. And it's been really fun to watch him develop his skills on the mic because he was always great in the ring. Always fantastic worker. We've seen his matches. Like one of my favorite matches is that triple threat between Sheamus, Gunther, and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 39. We've seen him lose twice now in his home country when going up for the WWE Championship, um, and and maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to finally reward the man. I wouldn't be opposed at all to seeing Drew McIntyre win this year's Royal Rumble. I don't think CM Punk is going to win this match, uh, solely because they've already established that idea that Heyman owes him a favor. So I think he's going to cash in that favor once he realizes that the only way he's going to make a main event is not by winning the Rumble because he's going to lose again, but he's going to have to cash in that favor. Seth Rollins, I don't see him winning the Rumble this year. Knight, like you mentioned, he got the United States Championship to worry about. Shinsuke might make an appearance and throw him out the ring, and then we continue that feud. Cena, it would be too easy. I wouldn't want to see it. Roman, I don't think it's time for the trilogy yet. With the names on the list that we just went through, I think it'd be up between Punk and McIntyre. I wouldn't be opposed to either, but with Cody winning the last couple of Rumbles, him being the easy pick, I don't see them going an easy pick again. I think Drew McIntyre surprises us here and he might win the Rumble, and that would be fucking great. I'd love to see him go up against Gunther again. If he's the champion at the time when we make it to WrestleMania 41, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. But following this promo segment, we get something that you've been patiently waiting for. We get something
Hmm.
that you've been hyping up. We get a debut that you've been eager about since bringing up his name. And I want to give you the grace. I want to give you the honor because this guy is someone that you loved, someone that you love, someone that you have some dream matches lined up for, someone that you've already fantasy booked as we head into 2025. That is none other than Penta, El Zero Miedo. You, I'm sure the excitement across your face when you saw this man's music hits. But, I would be remiss to not mention the hilarious fact that Penta's debut. We all knew it was coming. We got the teasers. We got the video packages leading up to this episode of Raw. I thought he was going to debut at the first episode of Raw on Netflix, but he debuted on the second. But the funniest part was waking up on Monday morning to find out that someone at Fanatics or someone in the WWE shop set the timer for not 8 p.m. on Pence's merch, but set it for 8 a.m. So the mask was up, the shirts were up at 8 a.m. Monday morning, and it was spoiled. Penta was spoiled. We knew he was coming this episode. Pause. We knew he was going to be debuting this episode. And that was spoiled for us hilariously. I think it was funny, but the best part was his debut was so strong, it was so well done that no one gave a fuck. We were just excited for the match that we got between these two. But I want to give you the honor to go on and give me your first thoughts, what you thought of this match, what were your favorite spots, how do you feel about seeing Penta in the WWE, and just overall thoughts on the match in general.
All right, I'm just gonna run down my thoughts on my notes because I did have a lot of them, and then if you want to cover the match later after, that's perfectly fine. Listen, Penta's my boy. I've made that pretty clear, and I couldn't help but get a little nervous when Chad was in the ring. Chad is a truly phenomenal competitor. We know that, and to have him go up against Penta is just showing how much WWE really does trust him, you know? You can talk up a player all you want, but when game time comes, it's up to him to show up and show the world what they're about. And I'm glad to say that Penta did just that. Not only him, but to anyone caught dissing Chad, you better put some respect on this man's name after that match. Not only did Chad present himself as a perfect villain, saying he hated lucha and luchadors, but also kind of leaned into the I'm American, I'm the best side of the character, which just made the whole segment and match gold. Um, I said this once a few weeks ago on the pod, but Chad is that guy for WWE. They can just trust. They trust he'll deliver inside the ring every time. They trust him with new talent in the ring. Clearly, with the demonstration of him handling Penta, they trust him to go overseas and represent WWE. So if you cannot see that Chad Gable is that person that they like to trust with these situations, then you're severely mistaken at Chad's true talent. All around though, these boys really brought the house down. Penta had three deadly moves that he showed off, but my favorite was the Mexican Destroyer. The Canadian Destroyer has always been an awing moment when done, so I'm glad that WWE has someone that'll be consistently showing it off as part of their arsenal. Chad sold the fuck out of it too. I think that was probably some of the best selling I've seen in the past couple years, so we got to give him props to that. I think it goes without saying. I think WWE made the right call and grabbed the perfect superstar for the job. Chad keeps cementing himself as a WWE staple and a workhorse for the company that can really go in the ring when allowed. And Penta's debut was no short coming for him. Penta's debut ended on an emotional promo about finally making it to where he thinks he belongs. And I think that's awesome for him, especially having his family in the front row that night. I will say that going forward, this isn't a one and done and Chad rematch. And I'd be down for some Chad rematches, um, obviously. But if they decide to move on, I'd be disappointed because no one really popped on him at the end of this, and I get it. He cut that emotional promo at it after I knew that he was just kind of speaking from the heart. I figured that no one was gonna pop on him, but if they're not gonna continue it with Chad, I kind of feel like there was a missed opportunity for someone to come down and challenge him. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll see next week whether they're gonna continue this. If Chad's gonna want his rematch against the Luchador, or if this was a one and done just to have Penta show up.
For sure. Listen, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. This was probably one of the few matches in its entirety that I've seen of Penta, and I absolutely loved it. I was impressed. He was fantastic, super athletic. We saw him, as you mentioned, hit moves like the Mexican Destroyer, um, the Penta Driver, which is his finisher. The motherfucker hit a crazy fucking. I will say, listen, Chad Gable, love you. Phenomenal job, but there was a suicide dive over the rope from Penta, and I feel like Gable just completely missed him, and it was the funniest shit, but it looked great. It was like towards the start of the match, and that was the only like hiccup there. But all in all, it was a fantastic match, man. One thing I did notice, even like with AEW, when Penta was in AEW, the Canadian Destroyer, they wouldn't sell it. They do that shit where they like hit a Canadian destroyer, then the opponent gets up immediately, hits one on the opponent, and they just trade destroyers. And it's fucking dumb. But here, Chad sold that shit like he was dead. It was fantastic. And you mentioned it, man. I absolutely love the fact that they decided that Chad was the guy to be in the ring with Penta to debut. They clearly have that trust in him. And I think the reason why this debut was so well done in terms of the match itself was because Gable was just perfect, just absolutely perfect. And it frustrates me as a Gable fan because someone has to lose, and I get it, but I want to see the brother win. He deserves so much. I want to see him in Intercontinental Championship reign. I want to see him in the World Heavyweight title picture because he has the fucking crazy talent and he's a workhorse and he is insane. He also, to go on a separate quick little tangent, Gable and Charlie Dempsey had a match, a 3-minute match on WWE Speed, the shit that they do every Wednesday. Just a fucking workhorse, man. Chad is fantastic. Anyone he gets in the ring with makes him look great, and he just knows how to put on a match. But back to Pence's debut, just an absolute showing of the man. And as from the moment his music played, he made his appearance, the fans and the crowd absolutely adored it. Jealous that I didn't get to see him in person, but San Jose, phenomenal job of cheering him on. They loved him. He loved them, and he cut that emotional promo at the end of his match as well, letting him know that he finally made it to the big leagues. And it was an interesting promo to me. It felt almost like he felt relieved that he was finally done with the last place he was at, and that he can move on to bigger things, and it's time for him to really enjoy the WWE. And he mentioned that it's now the new era, as everyone is calling it, but it will be the Penta era. But I'm excited to see where he goes from here. I'm not too upset at the fact that there wasn't any continuation or anyone that came out to interrupt him. Maybe I think they gave him the grace and just let him really enjoy the moment. And you saw him sort of get emotional, like he almost couldn't fucking believe it. We've seen the memes online as well of him staring into the camera and with a face of shock. And it's like, oh, Penta's shocked that there's people on the hard cam side in the WWE, and I just think it's funny. But all in all, a fantastic debut. I absolutely loved it. I'm excited to see who he gets in the ring with next. I can imagine like the matches he's gonna have against the Andrades of the world. Imagine the
Mm.
fucking match that he gets with Dragunov when we get Dragunov back. Oh
Ooh,
my god, man,
that's
that's
a
gonna
good
be a
one.
fucking sick match. Gunther and Penta, fucking even Ludwig Kaiser. Kaiser's been on a tear. Sheamus get in the mix there. Braun Breaker, like he's gonna have a fucking blast in the WWE. I love the mask that he was wearing. It was sick as fuck. The gear was sick, and he just had the whole presentation, the aura to him this Monday, and they're gonna put the rocket on him, as I like to say, and he's gonna kill it. Another fun little thing that that I found funny was the fact that Chad keeps losing to these fucking Mexicans. He's lost to Dragon Lee, he lost to Penta. I'm not too sure if he's lost to Rey Mysterio, but him being the American made gimmick just makes it hilarious. Because he can't seem to beat any of the Mexicans. So we'll have to wait and see what he does. Maybe JBL. We found out that this week's episode of Monday Night Raw is going to be in Texas. I believe Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, as they prepared to host Saturday night's main event in San Antonio. So we found out that JBL is going to be on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Maybe he's going to give him some words of encouragement. You know, as we know, JBL has spent some time at the border back in the day in 2005. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, I would suggest you go take a look. Put in YouTube JBL border. You're gonna get a fun little video there. So maybe JBL talks to Chad Gable and gives him some inspiring words, and maybe he can finally beat a Latino in the future. Maybe he's gonna have to wait to face a fucking Legado del Fantasma or Andrade, but we need to get this man over one of these Mexicans because this is absolutely ridiculous. But Penta was not the one. He was not the one to be played with, and he came out winning this match here. Absolutely looked fantastic. I'm excited to see what the future holds for him. And I'm sure we're gonna get his brother Ray Phoenix soon as well. Once he wraps up whatever contract issues he's having at AEW, we're gonna get him over on this side, and we're gonna get a tag team between them two. All in all, I thought the WWE did a fantastic job of giving Penta the floor here, letting him have his debut the way that he did. Just a fun match, and man, it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm excited to see what happens, how he plays into the WrestleMania season, and we know he's going to enter that Royal Rumble as well. Wouldn't be surprised if he makes a big splash there. And one individual, I do want to see him have a match with when he does return. I hope it's soon. I hope that he returns at the Royal Rumble. Is the phenomenal one. AJ Styles. I think AJ and Penta would put on a fucking show, a barn burner, as you like to call it, a slobber knocker. I think those two individuals would be fantastic. And you know who else would be great in the ring? Who would match his style very well? None other than Carmelo Hayes. That's a fantastic wrestler there over there too on SmackDown. So we're gonna have to we'll see if when we get all these dream matches that I'm talking about, or even a Finn Balor of the world. Um, I'm just excited to see how he where his progression goes as his career unfolds in the WWE. Before I move on to the next segment, I do want to ask if you had to fantasy book a few matches for Penta, who do you want to see him face personally?
Ah, shit. Okay, here we go. In the WWE, I would have to say I would love to see him go up against someone like Gunther, just because Penta is someone that can make the David versus Goliath match work just out of his work rate. I think that's a problem that we see a lot with people like Gunther, is that the people that they put up against him aren't really, and not to sound offensive, are believable at beating him. And that's just because the work rate isn't there. But for Penta, the work rate's there. I feel like he has enough in his arsenal that he can chop that tree down, and it could be a great feud between them. You mentioned Kaiser. I love Kaiser. He's on the come up. He's been taking all these matches in order to kind of buff that resume up. I mean, I'd be remiss not to say some of the luchadors. Fraxium's gonna come up at a certain point. I would love to see maybe even Penta and Phoenix versus them too. If not, just Penta versus both of them, like in solos competition, would be great. Other than that, like I don't know, dude. Like there's so many potential matches just because he hasn't really worked with any of these people before. He's been kind of stuck on CMLL, Indies, and New Japan. So there's a whole new roster for him to work with. And like you said, I think he's gonna have a lot of fun picking through it.
For sure. No, I'm excited to see where it goes. But I do want to mention there's three people that I would love to see him get a match with again. Those three individuals are Io Sky, Kyrie Sane, and Chelsea Green. For those of you who do not know, for those of you who are not familiar with Lucha Underground, if you have a second, if you have, if your stomach is strong, if you don't got a weak stomach, I'd go ahead and Google Penta versus Io Sky versus Kyrie Sane versus Reclusa, now known as Chelsea Green. Yes, he was putting on matches with these women. And yes, this shit looked like domestic violence at some points, but they were fantastic matches. WWE clearly is not going to let that happen, not on their television. But, if there's a funny backstage segment with all three of those women in Penta, given that little nod with
Bro,
that,
that would be
that
so
would be
sick.
so fucking funny. That would be so funny. And I think Triple H and the team and creative would be the ones to do something along those lines, just to play a little nod, make a little joke about it. So we'll have to. I think that'd be funny. So all in all, phenomenal debut. I'm glad that Penta's in the WWE. I'm glad he's made it here. I'm excited for his brother to come along as well. I know at some point it'll happen. It may take a little longer, but I think also I would be remiss to say that the superstars who are considering free agency, or the superstars who don't know whether or not they're gonna stay at TNA or they're gonna stay at AEW, or they don't know where their future holds. I think seeing Penta debut the way that he did, and even the Andrades of the world making his return to the WWE as well. These are all individuals who have been put in great spots now. Andrade hasn't won a championship yet, but he's had banger matches. He's had a couple of championship opportunities as well, and I'm sure Penta will get the similar same treatment. And I think that that's going to build some confidence in those superstars that are considering free agency. So we'll have to wait and see who else jumps board over onto the WWE um from other promotions. All in all, congratulations to Penta. What a fun debut it was. And then
Now, before we move on, you did mention something I had never, I guess, taken into account. You said that Chad Gable cannot beat any Mexican. With their rumors being that maybe someday in the future we go to Mexico for a PLE, do you think that we continue this trend of Chad Gable losing to luchadors until we get to that pay per view and then finally have him go over in the birthplace of lucha? Or do you think he goes over on a luchador way before
Nah, that'd be sick. If they're 10 steps ahead, if they're 100 steps ahead and they're like, you know what, we're gonna have Chad lose to Ray Phoenix, we're gonna have him lose to Ray Mysterio, we're gonna have him lose to Penta, we're gonna have him lose to Ray Phoenix when he comes out in Mysterio, sorry.
then?
And and Dragon Lee, and they hilariously put him in like a fucking fatal four-way with all four of them in Mexico, and he whips all of their ass. I would love it. I would love it. That's what I would do if I'm WWE and Chad Gable, since he's taking all these L's. Give him that one win with the full American flag, the
Oh
outfit,
shit.
have him pull up with JBL and suplex some of these Mexicans through the fucking table and have them walk out of Backlash Mexico, as that's what there's speculations about, an absolute winner. That would be hilarious. I would love it. Until then, if they hilariously get fucking Ray Phoenix and he debuts against Chad, that's clearly where they're gonna go. That's clearly where they're gonna
Yo,
go.
that'd
They're
be
gonna have
fucking
Chad go over.
hilarious.
They're gonna have Chad go over every Mexican when they go over to Mexico, and I cannot wait. Speaking of Mexicans, there is one individual that the fans love to hate, and that is none other than Dominic Mysterio. Shortly after the Penta debut, we do get a Judgment Day segment backstage with Dominic Mysterio holding some flowers in his hands, and Liv Morgan walks into the camera angle as well. Dom tells Liv Morgan, "Hey, listen, my little güerita, last week, I didn't mean it. I was just bullshitting. And what he was referring to was when Rhea won the championship, he went into the ring to extend his arms, sort of give her a hug, to say that he's been, he was just kidding about the whole Liv situation. Dominic doing Dominic things, of course, but Rhea kicked him in the nuts, sent his ass home. So Dominic had to apologize to Liv for what he did last week. Liv said, "It's okay. Don't even worry about it. I'm not mad." And we all know when a woman says she's not mad, clearly she is upset. So she was very upset. But Dominic hands over some flowers. Liv hilariously says, "Oh, thank you so much." Throws them to Carlitos and say, "Put those somewhere nice." Tells Dominic, "Hey, can you make sure mine and Raquel's bags are in the valet and that the valet is ready to go as soon as we finish up here tonight?" She walks out of the camera angle there. Dom turns around, speaks to Finn Balor and JD and lets him know, hey, she wasn't even mad. Finn hilariously laughs and said, "You have a lot to learn, brother man." Finn goes on to discuss his upcoming match with Damian Priest that night, and now he's gonna beat his ass in a street fight. And to be honest with you, man, I don't even want to really talk about that shit if I'm being 100% honest with you, because I'm still upset about that shit. Shit pissed me off. But anyways, they have a little backstage segment here. Clearly, there's gonna be some turmoil between Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio. Just interesting to see. I I love it. I think Dominic plays a fantastic heel. The little Eddie Guerrero homage that he always plays him is great. But any thoughts on this backstage segment here? I know it was a quick one. Where do you think the Judgment Day goes from here with Liv Morgan and the frustration and the back and forth that she's been having with even Finn Balor as well? Where do you think they go? Is there a breakup coming up here that you see?
I'm gonna be 100% honest. I don't really know where they're taking the storyline, so I'm not. I don't have many thoughts on this segment, just because like you said, everyone kind of just seems frustrated with each other. Liv's treating Dom like a dog after trying to reconcile with Rhea, so that's kind of going on. Um, but to be honest, I feel like we can break this group up next week, and it won't even cause a ripple in the main show. I really just want Finn to fucking win something, and we'll get to that later on in the show. But I just want him to bring that fucking dog out in him that he used to have. We haven't seen that in a while, and I feel like it's kind of stunting his momentum just staying in this goddamn Judgment Day storyline. Liv's gonna be fine without them. Honestly, I dropped the dead weight. I mean, Raquel. Carlito is a solid worker, but it seems like he's gonna be the next our truth, if I'm being honest. And to be honest, I'm not really mad at that because he can play both of those roles well. And if he eventually wants to transition into a backstage role, he's amazing for that. I know he had a huge part in helping the ladies on Netflix for the show Glow train for the wrestling. So he obviously has that talent to teach people in ring work. As for Dom, he's got a future and the heat to back it up at the moment. So maybe the split will be good for him. And it gets some solo opportunities maybe that he can cap on before the heat uh, kind of goes away and sizzles. Because, like I said before, as we know, that kind of crowd reaction to you doesn't always stick for that long if you're not careful with it. Um, but for Dom, like we said before, there's rumors of a show that's going to happen in Mexico potentially in the future. So there's obviously something for him to kind of work for and build towards, and that if he wants to be a part of that. And I'm fine. Like I said, I'm kind of confused on what's going on with the Judgment Day. It's really not intriguing me as much as I would say it's intriguing you. So I wouldn't
Mhm.
be mad if they just kind of just split these guys up at some point and we go our separate ways.
For sure, yeah. I think we can cut off Liv Morgan and Raquel from the Judgment Day if they're gonna keep them together, and let it be Finn, JD, Carlitos, and Dominic. But they something needs to change here. I think it's getting a little stale. But I do think Liv and Raquel will part shortly. And Finn Balor and JD, I think those two individuals will continue their friendship together. I think they make sense, as you mentioned. I want to see Finn Balor win. I want to see him go over. I want to see him, be that star that he once was. I don't know if that's what the WWE wants anymore, especially following the main event of that episode, which we will talk about in a little bit here. But moving on to greener pastures, the following match here was Ludwig Kaiser versus Sheamus. Always love seeing these two individuals go at it. They have fun in the ring. It's always a physical match. This one was not a quick match, but quicker than what they usually put on between Sheamus and Ludwig. We know we got that match at Survivor Series between these two. Or was it a triple threat, if I'm not mistaken, for the Intercontinental belts? Kaiser always plays a phenomenal asshole. He's fantastic at it. And he's a workhorse, man. He's fucking great. I don't think he gets enough credit, especially over the last couple of months. He's just been on fire. And this match here was a fun one. Nothing too extravagant to talk about. All in all, this was really just a ploy to have Sheamus go over. He won the match with his bro kick on Ludwig Kaiser, and then we find out that Braun Breaker was actually sitting ringside, and so Sheamus goes over to Braun. He lets him know, he points at that belt. I'm coming for that belt. They sort of have a little shoving match between the two of them. And then momentarily, Adam Pearce then makes an announcement. And I think this was actually the first match that was announced for next weekend, Saturday night's main event. We find out that Sheamus will be taking on none other than Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental belt. How did you feel about this match now being made? Do you think this is where Sheamus becomes a Grand Slam champion?
Braun, don't make me regret saying this, but Sheamus has a better chance at winning a free Grand Slam breakfast at Denny's than winning this belt on Saturday. I like Sheamus, but he's been in the company for as long as I can remember, and I even used to watch his YouTube channel, so I'm a fan of him. But I don't think this is where we put the strap on him. We just gave the strap back to Breaker, so why would we have him lose it on this go? Will he most likely? Yeah, I feel like it's in the cards for Sheamus this year. He'll become that Grand Slam champion, but I don't think his first go around with a breaker on solos for the belt is the time to pop it for him. He had an man. He's had an amazing bounce back, and God knows he's beat the fuck out of my boy Ludwig to hype his ass up. So yeah, I can see him building up to beat Breaker for that belt. But does that moment happen at Saturday night's main event? Hell no. This match was good though. Always love to see that Ludwig gets these opportunities because, like I said, he's kind of just building that resume up so that he can potentially go on and challenge bigger opponents.
Yeah, Ludwig is fantastic. Definitely another guy that he fits in the mid card picture very well. He can challenge for the Intercontinental. He can challenge for the United States, and it's believable. And he can work his way up to challenging for the bigger belts once we get the inevitable Imperium demise. Once we get the inevitable Ludwig versus Gunther, that's going to be something that I don't see it happening anytime soon at all. That's not what I'm saying. But when it does happen, when we get that Ludwig versus Gunther match, it's going to be a fun one, and it's going to be one that I think also allows Ludwig to, or pushes him up another tier, if I must say so myself. So excited for that, excited for Ludwig's future. All in all, Sheamus, I will say, I don't think he's going to win it at Saturday night's main event. I do think he will be the one to dethrone Braun. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do think he's going to be the one to take the belts off of him. If I don't know if we're waiting until Mania to do that, or if we're going to do that at another pay-per-view before then. But I must say, I'm a little disappointed with the presentation of Braun Breaker over the course of the last couple of weeks. I was upset that I didn't get to see him on the debut episode of Monday Night Raw, and just getting him courtside, ringside here, it's not enough for me, not enough for the Intercontinental Champion. I'm a little disappointed in that, but I am glad that he's getting a match at Saturday night's main event. I'm sure we'll get a promo on Monday from him, or maybe we'll get a warm up match, Braun against somebody this upcoming Monday, but excited to see him back in the ring. He's fucking great. I love Braun Breaker. That guy is a future world champion. 1,000%. He is a star as well, on the same trajectory as like a Jacob Fatu, just an absolute beast, an absolute workhorse, and he just fits the picture of a fucking wrestler. So shout out to Braun. I'm excited to see him back in the ring very, 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 very soon. But speaking of Imperium, another fucking guy that I was upset that I didn't get to see last week, Gunther. Gunther finally makes his first live appearance on an episode of Raw on Netflix, and hilariously, braggadociously, he goes up to the middle of the ring. He tells the fans, you know what, guys? I know I wasn't on last week's episode of Monday Night Raw, but I'm glad I wasn't on that shit because that shit was bullshit. That shit, the Roman Reigns of the world, everybody worried about a stupid Ulafala, everyone worried about some personal matters. All I'm worried about is finding a worthy opponent for my WWE World Heavyweight Championship belt. He lets everyone know that no one is on his fucking level. They can't touch him. He is the best wrestler in the world. And I absolutely agree. No one can touch him. No one is worthy of Gunther. No one is worthy of challenging Gunther. And while he's cutting this promo, I am just intrigued. So who's gonna come out? Who's gonna be the one to challenge this motherfucker? Is it gonna be Penta? Is it gonna be someone new? Is it gonna be someone that I'm not expecting? Nah. This motherfucker Jay Uso's music hits, and now I'm frustrated. Now I'm like, bro, what the fuck are we doing? Watching this live, I'm like, what's going on? What are we doing? We already seen Gunther whip his ass. We already seen him whip his ass. But of course, the fans go nuts. It's California. They love them some Jay Uso. He walks out. He has a mic in his hands, and he tells Gunther, "You know what, Gunther? I got the perfect opponent for you, and that perfect opponent is me." And they have a little back and forth spat, but hilariously, man, Gunther was just so dismissive of Jay. He was cutting this motherfucker up. He had a field day on Jay Uso. He tells him, man, I've already whipped your ass for the Intercontinental Championship. I've done that. I know what you are. You can't lace my boots. He lets Jey Uso know all you're ever going to be known as is a good tag team wrestler, and that there will be nothing that he could do to absolutely beat him. Just absolutely disrespectful, just dismissive, almost like a backhand slap to Jey Uso. It was so fun. When Jey Uso walked out, I was upset. I said, why is he getting this match? But the way Gunther cut his ass up, I was glad he walked out. I'm glad that Jey Uso decided to take that feud, and we're gonna get this match at Saturday night's main event. Cause I fucking better see Gunther whip his ass next week. And I swear to God, if Jey Uso walks out of this fucking pay-per-view as the champion, I might have to stop watching for a couple weeks. I might have to. There is no world in which Jey Uso beats Gunther for this championship on Saturday. There better not be a fucking world, and I better not live in it. But all in all, when Jey Uso walked out, I was a little pissed. A little pissed. Not because I don't like Jey Uso, just because, in my opinion, just not world heavyweight title material. Just not a world champion. Some guys just aren't in that picture. And I just feel that way about Jey. He's a great, great, great superstar. A superstar is exactly what he is. But he is not a great wrestler. You know, he gets the pop, he gets the crowd going, he gets the people going. He's provocative. But in terms of him facing Gunther, Gunther better whip his ass and he better wipe the floor with him. That's all I gotta say. But I want to hear your thoughts. Are you as passionate about this Jey Uso shit as I am when it comes to him facing Gunther? Do you think there's a chance, even a slither of chance, that Jay's gonna walk out of Saturday night's main event as the champion? And how did you feel about Gunther having this promo battle? Do you think that Gunther won this year? I also disrespected Jay because I didn't even say anything about what he said. I ain't give a fuck about what he said. I just cared about what Gunther said. Any thoughts on Jay's half of the promo as well?
Well, I was gonna ask if you were pissed that he popped a week later, but that's gonna be a resounding yes. Um, Gunther is him. He's the big dog on the yard right now that people fear. He's clean on the mic and he shames anyone that thinks is on his level. I'm just glad to see that he's back on his level. The doubt seems to be gone, and I'm not gonna lie, he fucking cooked Jay. This man puts Jay down so far verbally. I felt like I was being insulted. But Jay is Jay, and this is the environment that he really does thrive in. Down on his luck, no faith, on his own to prove a point. He came back at Gunther and admitted, "Yeah, that's me, but it's time to change that perspective of me." Will he beat Gunther? Nah, I don't think so. But if he does, then this will be Jay's feud for a bit, because ain't no way Gunther's getting punked on an NBC show. Now, if Gunther wins, then I expect a real threat for that belt to show up and start terrorizing this man so that he can get into Mania mentality because that's coming up. We're a couple months away from that. So everyone needs to start kicking it into high gear. And I would love to see who Gunther goes up against in the next couple months so that it'll set up that feud.
1000%. And listen, I just got the quote. I'm gonna go through this quote because he cooked his shit. He cooked his shit. Gunther told Jay, he was like, yo, you're funny, you're entertaining, but when that bell rings, I'm gonna expose you for what you really are, and that is a talented tag team wrestler. He told him, you are not on my level. He said, Gunther told him, main event, that's just a nickname for you, Jay, but that is where I belong. And he told him, "Look, man, stay out of championship business. Saturday night's main event, that's fine, but the choice is up to Jay." Nah, this motherfucker was disrespectful. He said, "Up to you, bro. You want to get your ass whooped at Saturday night? You could get your ass whooped at Saturday night. You want to get your ass whooped on Monday night? Get your ass whooped on Monday night. But regardless, you're gonna get your ass whooped." And then Jay's response, his rebuttal, same rebuttal he always has. I've always been told that I'm not a good individual wrestler. I'm not supposed to be here. Blah 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 blah. I'm not I don't belong here. But guess what? If you want Jey Uso to win the WWE Championship at Saturday night main event, let me hear you say yeet, and then everyone says yeet. Cool, you got the pop, you get the pop, but you gonna get your ass whooped. You gonna get popped in the mouth on Saturday talking to Gunther crazy. That's all I'm gonna say, Jay. I fucks with you, Jay. You got some sick gear. I fuck with you. The glasses, the yeet. I was yeeting when you came out Monday Night Raw at Netflix Los Angeles. I was yeeting with you, little smoking some weed with Travis Scott. I wasn't smoking no weed, but I was yeeting with you. So I fucks with you, Jay, but you gonna get your shit rocked. That's all I'm gonna say. Because you didn't deserve to be Drew McIntyre. You rolled his ass up last week. And I see why they did it, because they knew they were going to give you this match. I understand it now. I see it now. I didn't see it last Monday. I was pissed. But I see it now, and I'm not as pissed anymore because I know it's going to result in you getting your shit rocked by Gunther. So I could live with it. But moving on to greener pastures. Whew, I was very passionate about that Gunther promo.
Gunther always
But
does it
now
for
we
you.
get, yeah, man, Gunther goated, man. I fucks with Gunther. But moving on, we get to the Women's Intercontinental Championship final between Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria. This was a fun one for me. I really did enjoy this match. And there were some spots here. We were watching it live together. We were texting each other. Some nasty spots. There was a spot here at the beginning. Dude, this shit was like 2 minutes into this fucking match where Lyra and Dakota Kai find themselves fighting on the edge of the apron, on the outside of the rope. Find themselves fighting on the edge of the apron, throwing some hands. Lyra gets Dakota in a suplex position. And I'm sitting here thinking, there's no way she's gonna suplex her on the edge of the apron. That's crazy. She's gonna hurt her back. I was right. She doesn't suplex her on the edge of the apron. She suplexes her from the ring onto the floor outside, and it was nasty, bro. That bump was nasty. I was like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? This is 2 minutes into this match. They're trying to kill each other. Um, Lyra and Dakota Kai just put on a great match here. Nothing too crazy. I think they gave them about 10 to 12 minutes. It was definitely a fun one. Dakota Kai, I thought, put on a great episode here. I don't recall if I said Dakota Kai is winning when we were texting about this, but I'm not mad that Lyra won. When she walked out with the gear, with the blue Raven gear, I had a feeling she was gonna win, and that she did. Our first inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion is Miss Lyra Valkyria, which I'm personally a fan of hers. I think she's great. She's a great in-ring worker. I think there's some room for improvement on her mic skills and getting the fans over. I don't think the fans or not all of the fans are completely over on her yet, but I think she's one to win the fans' love, and I think it's gonna happen. But all in all, I really did enjoy this match. A few great spots here. Dakota Kai's she has that stomp. It almost reminds me of the curb stomp. It's like Randy Orton's uh, DDT that he hits on the ropes to opponents. Very similar to that, but it's a curb stomp, and it looked nasty. The fucking Lyra sold this shit very well, extremely well. I when it in comparison to someone on the men's roster, this might be crazy. This might be crazy. She kind of fits like the Chad Gable role in the women's roster. I might be talking crazy. I realize what I just said, but in my opinion, she kind of fits that picture when it comes to the women's roster. She's just one that has won the Intercontinental Championship, unlike Chad. Um, but I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think this was the right decision? Do you think would you head book Lyra, or would you head book Dakota Kai to win the inaugural Intercontinental Championship? And just what were your overall thoughts on this match here? Did you enjoy it? And are you looking forward to Lyra's title reign?
Man, this felt like an AEW match. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. This was a solid match. I came into it. I even told you I was like, I'm not too hot on either of these girls. I liked Dakota Kai back in the day when she first came into the WWE. I feel like she showed a lot of promise. Missed the Lyra Valkyria era of NXT, but there's a lot of people, you included, that have told me to just give this girl a chance. You know that she's a solid worker, and shit, you might not be crazy talking about her being a in the same level as a Chad Gable. I can see that for her in the future because she is, at least in this match, she showed me that she can be that workhorse, and I really want to see if she does go for that workhorse mentality while holding this belt. Um, the positive for me in this is that someone with a fresh face that we don't see as much won. I think I would have been upset if Kai won only because she is so injury prone. More than not, she's been injured during the time that I spent watching the product since her signing, and that does matter. You need to take that into account for whoever you're going to put the strap on. These workhorse belts need the holder to be just that, a workhorse, to put the mileage into making the belt be as prominent as it can be in the position that they put it in. Mileage like injuries on an athlete is a real big flag, at least to me, when it comes to choosing a champion. So if they would have strapped Dakota Kai with the belt just because she's been there long enough, I think I would have been upset with that. That didn't happen, like you mentioned, and Valkyria won. And it seems like they do have a lot of trust in this girl. So I'm excited to see what her title run consists of. If it's going to be a long one, a short one, or even if it's a short one, as long as it's competitive, I think that'll make me happy.
For sure. I don't think it's going to be a short one. I actually think that it's going to be an individual that you're a fan of that comes back, and she's going to set her eyes on the Intercontinental Championship. And I think that person is going to be Becky Lynch. I think Becky and Lyra have that story of being from Ireland. Becky's going to somehow, some way, make her way into a title picture very similar to Charlotte Flair, but Charlotte Flair does it a little bit more gracefully than I say a Becky Lynch does. I think I will never forget. I'll never fucking forget when Becky beat Bianca Belair at SummerSlam in
Ooh,
like
don't
three
remind
minutes,
me.
or
Don't
in like
remind me.
in like 3 seconds, in like 3 fucking seconds with her little manhandle slam. Uh, yeah, I don't. You're right. I'm sorry for bringing that shit up, but at least Charlotte Flair does it a little bit more gracefully than a Becky Lynch. They got Becky Lynch super juiced like she's fucking Hulk Hogan and shit. But I think Becky's gonna make her return. We're already starting to see her name come up a little bit more. They're mentioning her in the Seth Rollins promo. She's been on a couple Netflix press tours, so she's not retired as you may have thought, or may have mentioned at earlier in the pod weeks ago. She's clearly coming back, and I think Lyra and Becky would be an interesting and a fun match to have, especially them being from the same country. There's always an easy feud to build off of that. So looking forward to see where Lyra Valkyria takes her championship reign. And the great thing about this is just a stepping stone for Lyra. I think she's gonna move on to the world title pictures in the future, not anytime soon, but clearly she's building a resume, and it's starting very early in her WWE main roster career. And I hope to see the fans more her win over a couple more fans, slowly but surely. All in all, congratulations to the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra Valkyria. A fun match was had and a fun match was watched. And moving forward to another women's champion, I do want to bring up Miss Rhea Ripley, as she also, similar to Tiffany Stratton, made her first appearance on Raw television as our new WWE Women's World Champion. She let the fans know that mommy is back on top. Of course, the fans love it when Rhea calls herself mommy. But during her promo, we were rudely interrupted
Rudely.
by Nia Jax, and I said, hold up now. This is the second time this night where I didn't appreciate the world heavyweight champions getting interrupted. Um, And out comes Nia. Out comes Nia. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing here? Don't you got to go worry about Tiffany Stratton? Don't you need to go get your rematch over there? What are you doing on Monday Night Raw? I was already pissed. But the funny part about this shit is as soon as she stepped up, as soon as the music hit, the fans were not having it. And it wasn't like a boo, it wasn't like a regular boo of a heel. It was almost, listen, nothing will compare to the Hulk Hogan shit that happened last week, but it was almost like a "fuck you, shut up" type of boo, you know? No
Mhm.
disrespect, but that's how it came off. Like they didn't want nothing to do. They didn't want to hear her. They didn't want her opinion. They didn't want her on the mic. They just booed her. And you could see her kind of get a little flustered, a little frustrated, but she basically told them to shut their ass up. The fans did. She want to go ahead and cut a promo, letting them know that she's going to be winning the Royal Rumble and that she's going to go ahead and take whatever title she wanted. And whether that's Tiffany's title, whether that's mommy's title, it doesn't matter. She's going to win. And then she also turned her attention to Bailey, who happened to be in the crowd because they were in San Jose, and Bailey is from that city. So Nia Jax says, of course, Bailey's from this horrible city. Bailey then, of course, makes her way over the barricade as she was with the fans. She joined Rhea Ripley in the ring and told Nia Jax, "This may not be my show, but this is definitely my city." And of course, in Bailey fashion, she calls Nia Jax a big old dumb idiot. Jax then headbutted Bailey and also shoved Rhea Ripley, but Rhea then gave Nia Jax a headbutt of her own, and then Bailey and Nia teamed up to send Nia Jax out of the ring, and that was that. All in all, this was an interesting choice. Watching it, I just didn't appreciate, Nia coming out, kind of making like not making Rhea look weak, but she rocked her shit. She rocked her shit with a headbutt, sent Rhea down, and Rock Bailey. The two women had to team up to send Nia out of the ring. Of course, she is the more sizable opponent, but I just would have loved to see maybe Rhea cut her promo, a short one, call it a day. Didn't need we didn't need to find out that Nia Jax is going to be entering the Royal Rumble in this fashion, in my opinion. It is what it is. It was a quick little promo here. Just want your thoughts on this. Did you enjoy it? What did you think of Nia Jax coming over to Raw to let everyone know it's either going to be Tiffany's title she goes back after, or it's going to be Rhea Ripley's. But regardless, she's coming for a championship.
Yeah, I mean, out of everybody that I thought was gonna pop, I did not expect Naya. That's gotta be like one of the worst surprise pops that they kind of I would say advertised, because they did show a card pull up before the segment, and then like it came out, Ray came out, and Naya was the one to pop on her. Um Bailey being around, she's been bumming it at a couple shows, and I'll come back to her in a second, because if you want to be disappointed for a fourth time, I have another pop that you'll be disappointed for. But again, potentially, it just leads us back to Nia versus Bailey again, and I don't fucking want to watch that again. So I just really want them to keep these girls apart. If that means having the transfer window work in favor for one of them and switching them over, I'm all for that. All in all, I said I wanted Rhea to move on to facing the people, but this isn't really what I meant. What the plans are for the champ, we'll just have to wait for the upcoming weeks to see. We also like we said, we have Rumble coming up. People are going to be challenging. There's a lot of lay of land that has to happen before we get into WrestleMania. Oh, and the fourth disappointment. Since we won't be talking about NXT this week on NXT, Roxy came out and she had her post defeat, speech in the ring, and they had teased before exactly the same way they did here. Someone arriving in a car. So I immediately started thinking, who can this be? It's NXT. We can have a number of stars come over from TNA. We could just have someone be from NXT that we haven't seen in a while. But to my surprise, to my disappointment, again, Bailey's been bumming it around. She was the one that came out. She tried to give Roxanne some advice, and I'll just leave it at that because it wasn't even really that great of a fucking segment. But if you want to be disappointed a fourth time, there you go.
I did see that. I did see the promo that Bailey and Roxanne had in NXT. Roxanne was being a little disrespectful. Said, "Look, you nobody's role model anymore. All the records that you had in NXT, I broke them." I did see that promo there. I think it ended with them like fighting a little bit in the middle of the ring. I'm not sure if that turns into a match or not. But
I hope not.
we'll have to yeah, we'll have to tune into NXT to see if that actually turns into a match. But maybe that might be a match on the main roster. Bailey also could take Roxanne on SmackDown as well.
That's
That
true.
might be, the way that might be the way they start to tease Roxanne moving up to the main roster. We'll have to continue to watch NXT and Friday Night SmackDown to see if that's who her first opponent is going to be is Bailey. But all in all, short segment. I thought, unnecessary for what it was. But I guess we find out that Nia Jax is going to be entering the Rumble, which we knew. But with that being said, we move on to the worst, the worst, the worst, the worst, the worst match of the night. Not because it was not a good match, just because of the ending and who came out on top. The main event of this Monday Night Raw episode was Mr. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor in a street fight. Damian Priest entered the ring, made his entrance with, I think it was a kendo stick in hand, maybe paying homage to Bad Bunny's kendo stick that he walked out with when he faced Damian Priest in a street fight at Backlash a year back. And Finn Balor, of course, hilariously, when his music played, Damian Priest was looking up to the ramp to wait until he came out. But Finn, of course, being the smart individual that he was, he actually attacked Priest from behind, caught him off guard, and the match was underway. This was a very physical match, to say the least. It was a street fight, of course. There was a lot of weapons being used very quickly, like within the first 3 to 4 minutes of this match. Finn Balor and Damian Priest found themselves fighting on the outside, well, on the left side of the entrance ramp. They make their way up to the fans, and they somehow, some way, Damian Priest hits a Falcon arrow on Finn Balor from it was from some elevated surface, and throws Finn Balor into a couple tables, ends his shit. I'm like, oh no, Finn is gonna lose again. And he hits this Falcon arrow. We cut to commercial. We come back from commercial. We find out that we actually have a stretcher involved now. The EMT team is there. Medics put Finn Balor on a stretcher and wrap a brace around his neck. While Damien is back in the middle of the ring, he seems confused. He's arguing with the ref. He's like, nah, fuck all that. Bring his ass back into this ring. Damien runs over to Finn, who's now laid down on the stretcher. He grabs the stretcher. He rolls the stretcher down the ramp. Finn hilariously hits the ring and rolls into the ring with the neck brace on. And I am just like, no, there's no way Finn Balor's going to lose again. But Finn somehow, some way, with a broken neck or whatever, decides to fight back. They have a little bit of a back and forth. Finn Balor and Priest find themselves outside of the ring again. This time there's 2 tables set up. Finn actually placed Damian Priest on some tables. He hits a nasty looking coup de grace. When he hit this coup de grace, put in Damian Priest through the table. I was hype. I said, "Oh shit, Finn actually might win this shit." So I'm getting excited watching this match. I said, "Finally, give my brother the opportunity to win, come out on top." But nah, somehow, some way, Damian Priest finds his energy. He actually speared Finn Balor through the barricade, through the ring announcer area. And when he get that spear, I got nervous. I said, "Oh no, he's gonna lose again." And Damian Priest sends Finn Balor into the middle of the ring. He starts talking shit. He does that fucking shit where he unstraps the torso part of his attire, sort of what Undertaker and Kurt Angle used to do. Um and he starts yelling and shit, emoting in the middle of the ring. He goes over to Finn Balor. He picks him up. He's about to hit the South of Heaven, which is a choke slam. But before he hits the South of Heaven, he yells out, "I am not my brother's keeper." He picks up Finn, and when he picks up Finn for this choke slam, I'm sitting there like, "Bro, please, Finn, please, bro, break out of this shit, bro. Please, bro, break out, bro." He doesn't break out, bro. He hits this fucking choke slam, bro. And I'm sick to my stomach, bro. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. And even when he hits the choke slam, the referee runs across the ring and makes it to where, like, if we're watching it on TV, you can't see the referee's legs, but they're clearly outside of the mat while they're counting the pinfall. So when they go 1, 2, at 2, I'm like, "Oh, we don't see the legs. Dominic is gonna save the day. Dominic's gonna pull the ref." I'm just having scenarios in my head. I'm like, "Nah, bro, pull the leg, bro." But no, the referee hits 3, bro, and Damian Priest wins, and I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Now I'm sick to my stomach because I'm like, bro, there's no way. I don't know. I don't know what Priest did, man. I don't know who he's cool with backstage, man. I don't know what the fuck kind of deal, 360 deal he got going on, but I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of this shit. I'm not even it's not even the fact that I don't even like you, bro. No, you know what it is, the fact that I don't even like you, bro, cuz it's fucking ridiculous. Like, you're a good worker, yes, bro. You're great in ring talent. Listen, I fuck with your in ring talent. You got some skills. You can put on a match. We've seen it. You've done it with Bad Bunny. You've done it with Drew McIntyre. You've done it with Gunther. You haven't done it with Finn. This might have been the best match they've had together. But all in all, I'm pissed. I'm fucking sick because Damien didn't need to win this shit. He didn't. He didn't. He's good. Like, you're good, bro. You're actually so good, bro. You're actually so good that you're too good, bro. And Finn Balor should have won this shit because now we're sitting here. Finn hasn't beat Priest. The whole shtick was he turned his back on Priest, so he had to win. No, at no point did Finn beat this motherfucker, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I hope this is it. I hope it's done. I hope it's over. The Judgment Day shit is done. And then the what really pissed me off was when he picked him up for the South of Heaven, and he yells, "I'm not my brother's keeper." Like, shut your ass up. Just hit the choke slam and shut the fuck up and let's keep going. But of course he had to be extra about it. Had to add a layer of oomph to it. But all in all, man, I'm pissed about that shit. This shit pissed me off. I don't know where Finn Balor goes from here. Where the fuck does Damian Priest go from here? He's clearly gonna enter the Rumble. He's gonna enter the Rumble, and you know what's probably gonna happen? Finn is gonna throw him over the rope, and we're gonna continue this stupid ass feud. But all in all, I'm sick of this shit. I'm done. I don't want to see them in the ring anymore. I don't want to see them on the mic against each other anymore. I don't want to see no backstage segments between them. I'm just tired of this shit. That's all I gotta say about that. I don't even really have any questions for you because this shit pissed me off talking about it. But what were your thoughts on the match? Were you glad that Priest won? Where do you think they go from here? Do you think it's time to separate them uh, altogether? Is this the last time we see them in the ring for a very, 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 very long time, at least with each other? Just what are your thoughts on this, and how do you feel about where Finn Balor is headed after taking another L?
Well, I actually did have questions for you, but you pretty much just answered them for me already. So I'll start off by saying this is a street fight. What more can you say? They beat the crap out of each other till Finn ended up on a stretcher and took the L, which I'm totally against because, like I said before, we just want to see Finn win. We want to see him hone into that heel persona that he plays so well and be on top. But it just kind of doesn't seem like that's the way that they want to go to. Like you said, I don't know who Damien has in his ear or in his pocket, but they clearly want to continue praising him and not someone like Finn. Um, I like Damien, but I don't know if the fans are there for him the same way all of us have been holding out for a new era of Finn, and that's kind of disappointing. I'll give them props though. The big spot in the match was one of the safest setups I've ever seen between two wrestlers, but that really just goes to show the quality of the wrestlers that these two people are, despite our biases for the characters. They went up and jumped off the ledge, and Finn tucked in his head perfectly. Priest delivered that move without a hitch. For the people there, it probably looked fucking insane, but I could assure you that on TV, it came off as safe as possible. Priest picks up the win, but I'm still left with more questions. Is it finally over, like you said? Um, does Priest enter the Rumble after this? Is that the way that we're going? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mentioned this during the Judgment Day segment earlier. I'm kind of just done with this group in general. They've let it sit too long for me to care now. So I kind of just want them to break up and go their separate ways. I feel like there's more compelling stories to tell as solos or tag teams, however the fuck you want to group them up, but just get them away from each other for the time being. Like you said, I don't think I need to see Priest versus Finn again for a very, very long time. But knowing WWE, they might fucking pull this shit out sometime soon again.
I hope not. I'm sick of this shit, man. He's gonna enter this fucking rumble. You know what, man? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the way they're fucking on his
No.
nuts. I would not be surprised if he wins this shit. And I don't even want to keep going about this shit anymore. This shit just pissing me off because I fuck with Finn. Um, but I don't want to buy more stock on him because he's disappointed me every time. Every fucking time. Every time I have a slither of hope, it's more and more disappointment when it comes to Finn Balor. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And I'm just tired of Damian fucking Priest, man. Jesus Christ. Someone send Braun Breaker to spear his ass, please. Or give me Bronson Reed to fucking tsunami him 6 times. I don't care. Someone just do something. I'm tired of this shit. They got him juiced like he's no one I've ever seen before. This shit is ridiculous. They got this they got him acting like he's the second coming of Jesus, and I'm tired of it. I am absolutely sick of it. I do not care. I don't care. Send the fucking masses. Send an army. Send the National Guard. I do not care. Just give this man a loss somehow, some way. But to say the least, I must say I'm disappointed in Finn Balor. I'm not even disappointed in the way they're bucking him. I'm just disappointed in him. But I'm also disappointed in
Damn.
Damian Priest. I'm disappointed in Damian Priest because he should have known to say, you know what? Finn should go over here. Finn should be the one to win. And he didn't.
That ain't
And that
happening.
wasn't the case. But I hope, and I pray that this is the last match we get between these two individuals. And I'm sick of it. There is one I do want to make note. My good friend, Mr. William Riley, as I love to mention him, he did bring up a fun fact, a little factoid. He said, I know you've been rooting for Finn, bro, and clearly this shit's not happening. But it would be interesting. It would be interesting if the reason why he lost is because the next time we see him, maybe he enters the Royal Rumble, and it's not the Finn Balor that we've seen on television the last couple months. It's the Demon.
Mm.
That's what Will brought up, and it intrigued me. It intrigued me. I said it would be interesting, but my stock is so low right now that I don't I don't even want to see it, man. I don't even want to see it unless he's bringing back the demon to win the Rumble. I don't want to see it, bro. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of believing in him. It's pissing me off. I'm
Damn.
sick of this shit. Damien just fucked up one of my favorite wrestlers for me, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of that goddamn Dominican, the fucking fake Dominic Toretto. I'm sick of this shit. Before I say something that gets me in trouble, I'm just gonna remove the mic. I'm just gonna remove the mic. We're gonna move on to some miscellaneous news that I wanted to bring up. When it comes to the Royal Rumble, On Thursday, January 16th, we found out something very, 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 very interesting. We had some breaking news this morning. As we know, WWE and TNA have already had a partnership, especially with NXT. We've seen some of their superstars come on to NXT's pay per views, onto their show and challenge and show up on television, such as. Why am I forgetting people's names? Anyways, WWE and TNA made the formal announcement that they have a multi-year partnership in place that is now aimed at creating unprecedented crossover opportunities with WWE and TNA programming for NXT superstars and TNA wrestling stars as well. This is very interesting to me, and especially because it happened 2 weeks before the Royal Rumble. I think this is going to open the forbidden door much more than it did last year's Royal Rumble, because last year I think the second entrant in the women's Rumble was Jordan Grace, if I'm not mistaken. We saw her make an appearance, but then after the fact we didn't really see her until a few matches in NXT, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this is very interesting because now we're getting teases of people like Matt and Jeff Hardy, even Dolph Ziggler in TNA. How do you feel about this news here? And do you think we get a couple of crazy surprises at this year's Royal Rumble with TNA superstars and WWE superstars now being able to cross over like never before?
I love it. I think it just goes to show where Triple H wants to lead the product. We finally, like you said, opened that forbidden door between two companies, which is just even crazy to say in the same sentence when mentioning WWE. As for the pops that come to the Rumble, I think that's a shoe in. You got your Joe Hendrys, you got your Jordan Graces, you got your Mooses that obviously will make an impact. The crowd will notice them, they'll know who they are, and they'll get that pop. I wouldn't even be shit. This might be a long reach, but I wouldn't be surprised if even Nick Meneth, aka Dolph Ziggler, pops up. And you know what? He should tease us with his old music and then cut it off like he used to and play the new one, just so that he kind of establishes Dolph Ziggler is no more and Nick Nemeth is here. So yeah, I love this. I hope to see this open up more doors. I've been talking to my buddy Chris a lot, and I've told him that there are a ton of superstars down in Stardom that I love. That I would love for some of the females down in NXT and on the main roster, some of the smaller ones to compete against. So if we could start opening doors like that, I think that'll be a phenomenal opportunity for WWE, and it just helps them grow more. I do hope though that this provides better opportunities for TNA's superstars as opposed to the partnership between AEW and TNA, because I feel like that partnership really didn't do much for TNA. I feel like TNA kind of was coming into their own at the time, and AEW kind of just mooched off that success for a bit. But I do hope that the WWE partnership is a lot more fruitful for those competitors down in TNA.
Most definitely, and I think we've seen it as well, already with what they already had established with NXT and TNA earlier this year. I think, like we already talked about, this just opens the door for a lot more fun. You mentioned it, Dolph Ziggler, aka Nick Nemeth. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an appearance at this year's Royal Rumble. It'd be a very fun. And who knows? Maybe, like you said earlier, what if we get a surprise winner? What if a TNA superstar walks into WWE, wins the Royal Rumble? That'd be insane. I don't think that's gonna happen, but just the possibility is crazy. And I think more than last year. I think last year we may have gotten one or two TNA superstars. I don't think that's gonna be the case this year. I think we get at least 4 to 5 minimum. And it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be great for the superstars. They get a lot more exposure, and it's gonna be great for both promotions. Because you can send WWE superstars over there to TNA, sell some tickets, sell some house shows, sell some big shows. So we'll see. All in all, excited about the partnership and some more breaking news in very similar fashion to last year. Sources have confirmed that WWE will also be hosting a WrestleMania press event on Super Bowl weekend again, which will be taking place Saturday, February 8th in New Orleans, which is the host city for Super Bowl 59. We remember all that happened at last year's press conference with The Rock doing the Bloodline family tree, with The Rock slapping Cody, with Roman Reigns telling Seth Rollins to get out of there, with CM Punk showing up. Just a super fun press conference. That was probably more fun than some SmackDown episodes, Raw episodes that we had gotten at that point in the year. It was just a really high, intense, and a fun press conference for the fans. They made a really big deal out of it. We got a huge story out of it as well. Um, as we headed into that press conference, we were of the belief that we were going to get The Rock versus Roman, and then of course everything changed. Um, and we got the Roman and Cody match, and so I'm excited to see how they play out this year's press conference, and the fact that they're doing it in the city that is hosting the Super Bowl means that they're going to get just a lot more fans at the door. It should be an exciting press conference to start and continue to kick off the WrestleMania season. But just wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on them continuing the press events for WrestleMania? And are you excited for it? Any crazy surprises or predictions that you may have?
No, yeah, I love these press events. They've done a really good job at kind of hyping these shows up a couple weeks and a couple months in advance before the actual show themselves, and we see some superstars, show up at these press events to make it a bigger deal. We even saw KO do that recently during a Saturday Night Main Event one. So as for crazy surprises, I'm not really sure. It's gonna be interesting to see post Rumble. Um, if TNA superstars are going to be able to come over as often or not, if they're going to be featured on some of the pay per views. Shit, maybe even we get featured on their pay per views, but that's a discussion for another time. So we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe they get to announce like a TNA specific match for that pay per view on this press event.
Yeah, a lot of different a lot of different things can happen, but all in all, very excited to see that WrestleMania season is kicking off. It's getting hot. It's getting everything is getting placed in order. The TNA and WWE news very interesting, especially with the Royal Rumble only a few weeks away. And just given last year's press event for WrestleMania, I am going to be extremely excited to see what they have in store and how they set up I'm assuming a few of the main card matches or a few of the storylines that we're going to be watching unfold as we continue and as we head into WrestleMania. And I would not be surprised if John Cena makes an important announcement there. Maybe we find out where his eyes are going to be set or what the next step is going to be in his farewell tour following the Royal Rumble at that press conference. He's going to be a part of it with him, with this being his last year. The WWE is going to want to monopolize as much as they can, and capitalize on Cena's final year. So should be an interesting one. What a week of wrestling. I'm looking forward to see how Friday Night SmackDown unfolds this week. Tiffany Stratton versus Bailey. Where does Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens continues to go? And then, of course, where Braun Breaker falls into on Monday Night Raw. Where Gunther and Jey Uso and that storyline is going to unfold as we head into Saturday night's main event. So many things are coming up. Jam-packed couple of weeks as we head into the next few weeks here with the Royal Rumble, Saturday night's main event. We're gonna keep up with the news, and can't wait to bring you guys all the information to come, and just overall excited that we're finally in WrestleMania season. But thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Word Around the Ring podcast. My last couple words that I wanted to say is just fuck Damian Priest and the fact that he beat Finn Balor. Fuck him. I hope that shit is over and done with. I'm gonna be over and done with now. With that being my last words, King Jess, take it away. Send us home. Put a bow on it. And one last time, let me hear you say "fuck you, Damian Priest." Everybody in the back. Have a good night, everyone. King Jess, take it away.
Mine's not gonna be that aggressive. That brings this week's show to an end. I'd like to thank everyone and anyone who's listening for giving us a chance. I hope you enjoyed the show and come back next week for more. Like always, a like, a comment, a follow goes a long way. It also shows us y'all are still rocking with us. Y'all already know we love yapping about wrestling, but we also love hearing from y'all. So I leave this episode on a question for the listeners. If you had to pick one superstar from any promotion, doesn't matter if it's WWE, AEW, no, it doesn't matter. No promotion is a limit. To pop on Cena during his last Rumble match to have kind of this, tense moment in the ring, who would you pick? Answer in the comments. Let us know. We'll tell you our picks next week. But until then, until next week, goodbye and good night.